Wow.
Wow, this is some really deep stuff.
I don't know what just happened, but something happened inside of me. Something snapped. Something.
I wasn't expecting that
either. Sorry.
It's okay. It's all right. It's beautiful.
Monster is like really small, but it had to become that to stop me.
And then the hurt child became present when you mentioned it.
And I didn't realize this until now.
There were things that I didn't remember until now.
Funny. I haven't seen that before.
It feels like I'm the monster. I'm kind of seeing images of things. Of a world where they can exist. This clarity brings all kinds of answers.
It's clear. She hugged me and then went back to her place, I guess, in my heart. Oh, it wants to come out. It wants to bippity boppity boop Cinderella me. She's melted into my chest. It's ooey gooey.
All week been finishing things, cleaning up more, started eating vegetables again last week. And it kind of just started happening. It's almost like I just finished going through a meditation session.
I feel light. When you hit that first joint, in the morning, and
I actually feel a lot more awake.
Okay. So.
Yeah.
Any idea where you'd like to start?
Yeah. So, I think what we were talking about last time was we got two protectors that are kind of competitive or testy with each other. One of them is we got to do something about this. We got to fix this. We got to, we've got a lot of work to do. We have a lot of discipline. We need to, work out, work harder, use more imagination to troubleshoot this. And the other one is we have to let go of stressful thoughts, and we have to and that moves to this forgiveness and spiritual bypass, and everything is already perfect the way it is.
Chicken nuggets.
Yes, exactly. And the exile that they both seem to have a piece of is sort of horrified and shocked at I forgot the chicken nuggets. That's so funny. The shocked at its physical and social identity. So my thinking about her is she's very little and she's just somehow experiencing herself as an object or something that appears in the world for the first time, looking in a mirror and thinking, oh, I thought I was so free and just lived in my imagination, but actually I'm stuck in this identity and body that's so small and I could never really have my hopes and ambitions because I'm just this little blob and sort of a negligible, forgettable chunk of flesh that, and it's some, and that exile is holding a lot of disgust and horror, basically some kind of horror. How am I just this revolting, dying, just not at all the like expansive thing I might have been hoping for. And then I think both of those protectors swoop in to say, on the one hand, well, you got to work harder. Like if you want to be the point of light you feel like you are in your mind, then you just, you need to be faster and be more capable and be richer and, buckle down and make a million lists and whatever, get into schools and all that stuff. And then there's another one that's like, no, we're just going to let it all go. And that's how we'll just like be enlightened and transcend the horror of being just a dying chunk of flesh, which is like, I don't know. And I mean, it's a little hard even now to find a place to land because both of those protectors are like really good at their jobs and
because this exile is still burdened with those feelings.
Yeah, I don't have clear access to the exile, and I think that's where we left.
Well, you've done a really great job remembering all those details. So that's nice.
That was such a vivid session. It was so, and even you, I feel like sometimes I don't know if you like how close you think we are to something, and I felt from you even that you were like, okay, this is we're getting somewhere. That maybe, we've met that forgiver before. And we've met sort of Olympian over performer before. But this was around like a really existential exile, just at the real heart of me, Yes.
Yeah.
And I was trying to think about it and I was like, it isn't that exile doesn't know like what it's like to be fat or thin or male or female or white or black in the world. It's before any culture. It's just like, oh my God, someone is telling me that thing in the mirror is me. I thought that I was like the night sky, which I mean, just like huge and capable of anything. But in fact, I'm just this like freckle-faced, chubby child. Like this sucks. This sucks. Like I just like might as well just be like a mouse or a bug, And that is, yeah. So I did make some time to play with Freckles. I just like decided to call her Freckles and sit next to her, not look at her or not like, I think we talked about not telling her she's beautiful, like not telling her she's anything, like of not commenting on her appearance at all.
Right.
Like just sitting side by side and like looking out at the world. And that did seem really, really nice. And then at the same time, I haven't gotten to the heart of her pain. She seems like she has to stay very still. And she's glad I'm with her, but she doesn't want to, I don't know. She doesn't want to talk a lot.
Yeah. You also mentioned in our last conversation part that was you were remembering like babysitting and you were remembering kind of in touch with a part of like, here's how I would be for a kid like that from a babysitter kind of perspective.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Remind me.
It's been a while since I listened back, but I think you were talking about braids and I think the babysitter mindset would be a little more of a fix-it kind of. Let's give attention to this one who's feeling left out. But I had the sense that was a little more of a fleeting kind of, charity kind of feeling.
Yes. Yeah. That's like, you are pretty. Let's like include you in the thing and do your hair or something. And And none of that gets at the other thing, but I don't the other or the particular pain, but I don't know if this Freckles, if she I don't know how to approach her as having a body without commenting on it. Like, I feel like I can get close to her as pure mind, but that's not, I don't know. It's, she's a mix, right? Because she's like realizing she has a body. So I don't really know.
And that's a really important realization of hers. And that's part of her burden is struggling with navigating that, her image of herself, her experience of her body and how it's perceived. So that's an experience of hers that you can understand, learn more about how it is for her.
Yeah. But I mean, if she were carrying a belief like that was just like I'm disgusting or I'm ugly, and she does sort of carry, I mean, I have exiles that carry those beliefs, but it's more like she just carries this belief, which is unfortunately true, which is I have body. And it's almost somehow like getting to understand that she's kind of both. Like, the thing she sees in the mirror is part of her, but isn't her entirely.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds different. Or maybe it's just adding to what I was recalling about our last conversation, where this was a girl who felt really plain. And,
yeah, that's true.
And I didn't hear much about the existential kind of the burden of actually just having a body versus not. So I'd be curious to learn more about that and see if this is multiple parts or yeah.
I think in a way she's too little. That's like what I mean about like she didn't she doesn't know like what you're supposed to look like or if you're supposed to look like anything or what her social status is in the world, or it's just she like, yes, it seems plain. It doesn't seem like blow her away beautiful, but what just seems plain and bad about it is just how limited it is. Like that it's a body at all. Like I guess I didn't have the experience of like looking in the mirror and seeing like a supermodel, so maybe you don't feel that. You don't have that same
but you had the
feeling
experience.
of disappointment.
You had the experience of making the Freckless and
yes, that's true.
The experience of the looks from your mother, or I mean, I'm sure those things were coming online.
So I think that's the protector talking. I think the protector is like, right, you're ugly. Okay, let's get it together and make this better. And then I think the other one is like, no, you're all beautiful. Everyone's beautiful. But the exile doesn't have either thought, like I'm ugly or beautiful. The exile is just like, this is all there is. Like, just this, like a body.
Okay.
Like, I think the protector made the Freckless thing, you know? It was like, all right, we can make this over. We can make this into something that like looks like the superhero that we want to be. Right.
And that protector was driven by some type of pain.
Yeah.
And you're now saying that, yeah.
It could be ugly. It could be ugly or plain, but it could also be something just more intense and gross than that. Like, just like guts and softness and just all the like ugliness of a body, you know?
Okay.
Like, because as I think more about it, it's like, it's not like a confrontation with another person who would be like, you're supposed to look like this, or a cultural norm or something. Just more like it just feels very horrified and grossed out and like infinitely sad at the idea that like I've got to carry this around with me and somehow make this whole experience work in the world. Like it felt like life was going to be really long and there was going to just need to be a lot of, I don't know what, something like just a lot of pain.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep, we can find out if we're able to get to any of these exiles. There was also a protective part up in our last conversation that we were kind of referring to as brisk.
Yes. And that's sort of the first protector, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
The one that has to like get stuff done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's like, and take care of just kind of try to whip the body into shape all the time. Is that what the brisk is?
I thought the brisk was more about how the story is framed. And I was only calling attention to it in our last call because I was wondering if it was up right now of, you have, your energy sounds pretty, bouncy, right? And like and interested, right? And we're theorizing about like, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. And all parts are welcome. I'm just calling attention to, it does have this kind of quality of like,
like not going
narrative,
deep.
a little narrative kind of quality.
Yeah, that's
and there's plenty of
laughter,
and it's plenty of laughter, especially at any time that you're describing really what sounds like pretty horrible experiences. When you're describing that she feels is like a little blob and forgettable. That's usually when the laughter comes out. So all parts are welcome. Just calling attention to what I'm noticing, and I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think I think you're right, and I think that is I'm having trouble accessing the emotions of the exile, like just very outside her.
Sure.
And maybe a little bit like condescending toward her, like I thought I was infinite, but really I'm 3 feet tall or however 2.5 feet tall. Who knows how tall she was? And you're like, I'm laughing again because I'm just like, it seems so absurd that a toddler, would have that misperception or something.
To have the misperception of like
being that she was so powerful and then and then the bad news that she's still in diapers or whatever.
I think that is that's the story of being a toddler, is having this kind of superpowers to control this big person, this mom around me, and to not even understand the boundaries between yourself and others, and then coming into what it really means for me to be me and you to be you, and
right, and also, I see other adults, unlike my parents, are not all that interested in my opinions, or my and
so I was just commenting on you said it seemed absurd, but I get it.
Yeah. I was thinking that's where the laughter is coming from a little bit, which is just being outside it and thinking like this king baby that just, I don't know, thinks it's the center of the world. And I can't, the reason I'm having trouble hearing her exactly is well, she hasn't been up that much because I've done this like just hanging out with her. And it's like just sitting with our feet in the water, doing nothing. It's not like there hasn't been much unburdening, but it's just been spending some time together. And it does feel like it actually has a huge effect from last time. Even though I knew we had sort of said it was unfinished, I kind of was like, maybe I can keep working on this.
Yeah.
And
it's awesome.
Right.
It's really great.
And then I just have a familiar thought, like I'm getting old and you know, I have to go to this thing and should I buy this dress and whatever and what size and like just things that could trigger it. And it was such a relief to neither go to what the fuck's wrong with me? I have to fit into a smaller size. I've got to do all these things. Or, you know what? I'm so groovy and like body positive that it doesn't matter. And I didn't need either. Like, I just was like, what if I didn't do either of those? Like, because they are so constantly mad at each other, you know? And those protectors are just in this endless dialogue. So much that the exile, there's just a very like, how about we do nothing part of the exile? Like, you know, you don't have to like.
You don't have to like.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Could you before?
You don't have to like.
Oh, you don't have to, you know, like eat chicken McNuggets to like own the patriarchy or like show you're liberated, but neither do you have to like, you know, sign up for 25 strength training classes.
Great.
And I just didn't realize that there was anything independent of those two poles. And somehow, I mean, the exile just really likes just sitting there and doing nothing. Like I just think of sitting, you know, on a dock, getting freckly, getting more and more freckly. Yeah.
Okay.
So I got to that. Yeah. So like when I went to, you know, think about whether I should get this dress or whatever, I just sort of slipped into this hazy, I'm just going to do nothing. Like I did end up getting a dress and that's fine and whatever, but neither protector came because I just sort of stayed sitting next to the exile. I mean, I can't say that it was like an unburdening that felt like, yay, I'm free of all body issues. It was very quiet because the other two protectors are so loud that once they stopped, it was just like, you know, whatever. We're just like sitting here at summer camp or like playing hand clap games or making bracelets or like just doing some summer campy thing with the exile. And that seemed really nice.
Sounds really nice. Yeah.
I think having those two protectors, which I mean, I'm sure you've noticed that those two protectors are just both alive for me in so many places.
Sure.
And so, yeah.
I was just going to say that I think they're alive for just about everyone, but yes.
Just about everyone, right. Right.
Sure.
Right. Anyone who's decided like, or at least in my case, I've worked so hard and I've neglected this spiritual part of myself. Well, now I need to throw myself into that part and and set up an antagonism between the part of me that, you know, wants to achieve things and and the part of me that realizes the truth lies in the present moment or whatever. And then you just, or at least I have just started like an ongoing war between those two, and sort of thought, oh, I need to resolve it. And, I think I said last time, like the first protector, the like disciplined protector, is like, oh, that's great. Wow, good for you. You really meditated and did yoga today and didn't worry about what you have to do.
Right.
Oh, but now you missed a deadline. So you need me now, right?
Yeah.
And then the other one is just like, look at you grinding your teeth, not spending time with your children, doing too much work, doing too much whatever, eager for this. Like, you need to slow down and be in nature. And then the argument continues, but neither thing actually like goes on,
Right. Yeah. It's resolved, but not because one of them won the fight, but because you got some self energy in there. You also addressed the exile some of the exiles they're wrestling over. And that's how to get them to calm down. Yeah. Yeah. It's still, yeah. Yeah. And actually calming them down, the work we did last time and now seems like every bit as important as unburdening the exile, but the exile is still feeling maybe a little bit elusive. Well, but she's like, all I wanted was kind of nothing. Like I just wanted to hang out. And wanted to not be fought over and wanted just to hang out with someone, with self. It's a freedom of just being herself with yourself. That's it. And also not be a problem, right? Like she looks in the mirror, she sees this body. It's not perfect. It doesn't fit her conception of herself as like powerful and beautiful and like a lightning bolt or the sky or a point of light or whatever. And then instantly is crowded in with two people being like that, two protectors saying that's a problem. Like that is a huge problem. And it, in some ways, I think she's okay to have her disappointment. Like, who's not disappointed? I'm disappointed. Right? Self is there to understand how it was for her, and takes it seriously, and spends more time and also welcomes in the fun stuff. Right. Like I kind of, there are certain moments with my mother in real life that I like, if I had acne or if I had, I don't know what, like needed a tan or whatever she thought, it would be like, oh man, my hair is greasy right now. And she'd be like, that's okay. We can fix it. And it was just like, we're going to fix this. Everything, like there's like something you can use or like moisturizer or makeup or waxing or whatever. And it was just the quickness from like, I can't believe I'm stuck in my body. I'm like, I have cramps or I have whatever. So like, oh, that's okay. There's medication, there's thing. And like no minutes pass between the recognition of just like a state of mind and then let's just briskly start fixing that problem. Like, what can we do about your hair? What can we do about those jeans? How can we just felt like a lot instead
of
something
fixing.
like, hey, how is that for you? How are you?
Yeah.
And what do you want?
Yeah. And also, if things need to be fixed with that much money and potions and stuff and medications, then they must be really bad. And then I'm like, then the exile just starts to seem like this really bad thing that always needs fixing.
Absolutely.
But really the exile, and maybe this is the laughter too, like the exile is just like, just a fine, cool kid. Like it's just any kid, And yeah. And that protector definitely is like, has a bit of my mother's voice. I mean, I've taken it on entirely myself.
Sure.
I'm like looking across in my room at like, every possible moisturizer, whatever treatment. That is all of it is like a test. But I also, that protector has some upsides because he or it is such a can-do person.
Right.
It's just like I'll make this work. But it is so nice to see the moment before the moisturizer or whatever as like it wasn't that bad. It was like, it's kind of fun to like, get your hair looking good or whatever. But it didn't need to correct some like endlessly horrible problem. Like that's right? Like that's probably
or some defect.
Some defect. Yeah. Yeah. Defect.
It was a word that came up in our last conversation. Defective, gross, badly formed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Plain.
Yes.
And I think dishwater hair came up.
Yeah.
I'm only saying these things again because I want to be thorough, and if there is a part in there that's still just really identifying with those, and then that's where I would want to.
I know you're just, James, you're telling me I have dishwater hair and I need to do something about it. I'm hearing what you're saying. I'm taking your note.
Yeah.
No, you're right. The dishwater hair. I think the thing about plain and disgusting plain and defective is to sort of just get out for a second of the idea that like it has to do with ordinary beauty standards. I'm definitely capable of feeling like ugly and fat in the regular world. But this is like I said, it's like feels a little more like primordial, a little more like, down in the guts and like, defective, deformed, maybe.
Yeah.
And I think that probably because the protector has been working so hard with so many potions, it's like we don't even know what we're trying to cover and fix now. It's like got so many layers of varnish over it.
I imagine as you're growing, as a toddler, not only, it's not like, I don't know, you were kind of talking about I look in a mirror and then realize I have a body, but it's a really drawn out process, right? It's like, this week and this month, I have this new feature that can get attention from my mother, for example, in this way or that way. And next year, it's some other feature that now needs attending to.
Right.
Right.
The two really early ones, I think I've mentioned this in an earlier call, but were my legs were a little deformed or something. I don't know how to describe it, but so my mother, didn't want me sitting in this particular way because she thought it would make it worse. So like when I would get comfortable on my own and just be doing something, she would be like, like tap my legs to make me change them. And then similarly, she was very worried that I would be a mouth breather. So she would like hit my mouth to make me close it. And those were bummers because both of those things were like when I was just concentrating on something that I wanted to just think about or work on or draw or whatever. And then suddenly it was how do I look?
Couldn't just be left alone.
Yeah.
And be herself.
Couldn't be left alone and be ourselves. Exactly. And like, why in the world does it matter what you look like while you're like reading, or while you're like, it just makes me want to have...
Or if it does, is that the most compassionate way to address it? If your mother really has a concern about how your posture is affecting your growth or something, was she addressing that with her self energy, or was it more from her protective part of?
It was more from
fixing.
Her. Yeah, her protective part, probably how I would come across in the world, and I don't know. But actually, that moves into something slightly more current, which is I'm gonna start walking in a second, but we can still talk. So my son who's in college, has to transfer. It's a 2-year college. He's transferring for the 4 years. And he didn't get in anywhere. He's waitlisted at one place and didn't get in anywhere to transfer for junior year. And his backup plan, and I think it might have been his number one plan, was actually to join the Army, which is a little scary to me. But I was thinking I was really sad, and I knew he hadn't worked very hard on the applications. And when I talked to him, I said, like, is this kind of what you wanted to happen? And he sort of said yes, because he went to college very early, or his first college very early. And, a few years off would be probably pretty good for him, or he might like it, or he might not want to be achieving all the time. And that was all fine. But I was like so upset about it and losing all this sleep. I was trying to get to about the Army. Yes, about the Army possibility. And I could say, well, I worry that he'd get hurt, or I worry that that he'd be like militaristic or whatever. But when it came right down to it, actually the true thing was like, what am I going to tell my friends? Like, how does this look?
Right.
And it was so clear that was the number one thing. I wanted the thing to be something more loving, but it was, I couldn't get around it. Right. And I was like, oh, well, I'll just tell them he's traveling the world, or he's taking time off. It was like nonstop. I was thinking, what am I going to tell? What excuse am I going to make for him doing this? And it's a little bit like my mom with the legs, mouth thing. It's like, it sort of seems like mothering, but a lot of it is like an extension of the potions and the how do I look in the world, Right. And, I don't know how even to make sense of that, except that look in the mirror is the moment that you're like, you're going to feel some way and you're going to be some way, but the exile is holding on to this idea, but it's like, it's very important how that looks to other people.
Right.
And it could be a lifelong task to just focus on it, from the outside in. And, this is my son's whole life and like his choices, and like I care about what the neighbors are gonna say in conversation. I'm gonna this is my son's existence. And of course I've seen mothers who are obsessive about their kids like being impressive in various ways, and I feel sort of alert to that. But this was a time that I was like, it's risen to the top of the list, more important than even my son dying. That I don't have to tell someone that he's in the Army. And then I was like, this is when the priorities, that first protector just jumps into gear and is like, how can we make this look better? Like, how can we fix this by making it look good to other people?
Yeah. So you did a great job of detecting that and facing it. And then.
Yes. So I told, And also, it kind of helped me to think like the exile in that circumstance also, like my son going to the Army is like just a normal thing for a young man to do. Like, it's not like either incredibly special or like the scariest thing ever. It's just like the other exiles. It's just like a kid making decisions. Like, it doesn't have to be like dolled up or hidden or changed. It's just, there've been.
So here's a question, because when you were talking about the look stuff or the fitness stuff, you had the part that really cared about it. And then you had the part that kind of would win the day and say like, hey, let it go. Yeah. Let it go. And so it was that also present. Did that come up also in response of, you know what, we don't care. This isn't something for me to have emotion about or for me to intervene with. And is that, does that come up around
a little bit?
Your son going to the Army?
I forgot about, that is a very good point because, yes, in the sense that I was like, I was trying to just, when I was tossing and turning, I was like, he has his own higher power and the universe looks after him and he belongs to the universe now. Um, and that felt better than the first thing, trying to make it
Right.
look good to my friends. But
Right.
it definitely didn't get at like, I want to look at my son, you know, and see him as like, he also has the freckles I have, and
Mhm.
just see him as like, just a kid among kids. Like, you know, obviously to me, I think he's, you know, super special in all these great ways. But I also want to see him. I mean, I just seeing him clearly, I just think like just sitting beside him. I mean, I told him in the first conversation all my thoughts about the army. And
Mhm.
he was just quiet, you know, and like
Mhm.
his friends are saying don't go and his dad's saying don't go, and you know, I finished my piece of saying don't go. And then I
Mhm.
was like, he's just quiet. He's just like, he's just being quiet. He's just sitting and kind of listening and making his own decisions. And
He's making his own decisions, and I cannot hear you. Charlotte, come back. Okay. James, thoughts? A bunch. A bunch of thoughts. I'm in this Zoom room by myself. So, okay. I'll just go with the most recent ones. Child of the Universe. Told him how I felt about the army. So, what I'd like to know is what I'm working backwards from was my last question of, is this just the let it go part? So that's what I'm hearing when I hear Child of the Universe. And what I'd like to ask, but I don't know if I have the words for, is what degree of curiosity and compassion was in that conversation, or have you brought to that? She's back. Hey, hey.
at least it's only one time so far. Yeah, so I'm gonna have a conversation with him where I hope to be there for him, just bring self energy to it. It'll be, I mean, the last
That's
call was
beautiful.
not that.
That's so great.
Yeah.
That's what he needs. That's what we all need. Curiosity, compassion, connection.
Yeah. Yeah.
And definitely, if that's been his experience of everyone telling them what they think about the army, then that's leaving out that curious part that really does guide people.
Yeah.
Help them examine their own parts, really.
Yeah. It's somehow that he had like a stomach issue recently, and he got some tests, but they couldn't release them to me because he's 18 now. And there was just a moment with that thing with the tests, like for a parasite, that I was thinking, he like 18 is an amazing threshold, because like, not that I ever had a huge amount of control, but like the law says you have no control. Like you know, like all I could do if I were determined to keep him out of the army is just like a heavy propaganda campaign. And
correct.
Right? It's incredible.
Correct.
It's kind of cool. Like when I sort of hit that wall and was like, now I just have only my powers of persuasion. And I'm just like, why do I want to spend any time with my wonderful son just thinking I need to fix and persuade him of something else? It's just like not a good way to, it's not a a fun way to converse with someone, to sell them a bunch of ideas.
Yeah.
So, in some ways it just felt like there was suddenly all this space and freedom on one side of it. And on the other was me basically trying to think of like an ad campaign for him to do what I want him to do. How much coercion could I work on him?
Can I get away with?
And get away with it. So that it was like, I'm just concerned about you. So I'm going to just drop some hints about how horrible it is to join the army. And I'm just going to casually mention them and be here, and then watch every second to be like, am I having an influence? Am I not? Is he changing his mind? And have it all reflect on like as if, and I think I would have told you that like the job of motherhood is like that persuading and propaganda,
Sure.
And then I think it was like, he's like just such a wonderfully determined kid, and he just turns into like to himself when it comes to making decisions like that. And just realizing like he's not even bothered by propaganda. He's just quiet while you're telling him, and doesn't say much, and then just does whatever he was going to do. And so I was sort of like, it could be more fun to like, just be by his side in his own thought processes.
Yeah. There's also nothing wrong with sharing concerns with him.
Yeah.
That can be done compassionately. Like I was saying earlier, kind of like there is a way for your mother to talk to you about your posture.
Right.
Between fix it now and let it go, there is a compassionate approach.
Yeah, that's harder for me to think about without slipping into either. It's like a path where there's like a gutter on either side, and I like it's hard for me to bowl right down that. It's like falling into fixing and controlling on the one hand, and like totally let it go. You're,
right.
Like so, it's sort of like between abuse and neglect, like right.
Right.
And I think I definitely go to neglect more quickly. Because, I mean, I definitely err on the side of
let them do what they want.
Yeah, let them do what they want. So I don't really have a good hold on what you just described, which is like,
right.
I don't know how I would help a kid with their posture without
so we would do it from self-energy, self-leadership. So creativity, curiosity, courage, and calm and compassion.
It's a little bit like how we were talking about the gliding last time. Because I will say, for myself, I have sort of found that middle way and that way to bring self-energy to like...
Starts with you.
Disciplined action and action that's both disciplined and... and...
Yeah, you can only give it to others as much as you can give it to yourself, I think, fundamentally.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know how I would give like my own exercise habit to my daughter or I don't know. I don't know how, like, for instance, my son, is kind of extreme with like body practices or like what he eats and that he sleeps outside and he's just like, he just, and he gets dehydrated and I don't know how to like get good habits in him while not over mothering or should I just be like, he's 18. If he's like going to do intermittent fasting, then he's got to let it go. I don't know. I don't know actually. And I know it's self-energy. Actually, I'm lost on that one.
Yeah. So tapping into self-energy is about acknowledging parts. So that's one way that you can do it in conversation.
Right.
Is to say, all right, a part of me wants this and a part of me wants that. And I know that these are both kind of extreme parts, but I just want you to be aware of them. I know, maybe I have some insight into why they're up. and my goal is to approach this in a compassionate and curious way, so if all you've done there is just set the table with, here's the parts, here's my intention, maybe I'm still not in any self energy, but I've at least kind of framed or set the table for
Let's go.
the connection that I want.
Wait, hold on 1 second. I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
Yep.
Yeah. So, stating those things, the part of me, this and that, to my son or to myself.
Well, yes, to yourself and to your son. Yes, both.
Right.
Yeah, that at least I think creates a supportive environment where at least here's the intention, and here's the care that I've put into in acknowledging what's up for me around this, and I have that persistence of self where if I do care about something, I'm not just gonna let it go. So I'd like to keep finding ways to connect around this. It matters to me, and it matters to a bunch of parts of me, and I'm curious how it matters. What is up for you around this? Because I want to understand you. And that's so far you haven't told him anything or sold him anything.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I think there was some like incredibly liberating moment when I told my dad, who's like still very sick, but somehow hanging in there. And he just said, I just have no worries about him. He reminds me of another person I know at his age who just does, meaning me, who just, does whatever the fuck she wants to do. And it all kind of works out. And for some reason, it was just very simple. And I was like, right, that's right. Like, there's so much torque and tension with my mother about like choices I made. And I don't know. She was like, I see the light, I just see the life in you, and it's, you got this. And that was sort of that. It was like, there's just something that is operating in me that's self. And my dad had that in that moment, and he could see it. And it's just sort of my son. And it was a peaceful moment there because he wasn't there, but we all just, I don't know, I just felt like this connection of lots of people who have been 18 generation after generation and just made decisions that one or both of their parents were like, what's wrong with you? What are my friends going to think? Right. How will I even tell my friends?
Right.
So that may have been a moment that I was like, my dad was modeling that kind of self for me. But I don't know if that gets into the spiritual bypass side. It doesn't feel like it.
Yeah. But also, I just have one more thing on my mind.
Yeah.
If you are prioritizing connection and compassion, then even if the one you love goes and makes a terrible decision that costs them a lot, at least they'll have that connection with you afterwards. So
yes,
it's like, okay, if you're gonna do this thing, I want to still be your friend on the other side.
That's it. Yeah.
And prioritizing that.
Right. Because there was, for my mom, she, at a different moment of decision making for me, she just pretty much was like, this is beyond the pale. Like, your decision who to marry is like, you're killing me with this. And on the other side, I was like, there's not a lot of space for us to have this friendship because she made it so decisive.
Right.
I like that a lot. That's very, I wonder, if there's, well, let's revisit it next time,
Okay.
because I think this is like this triangulation that is common, but is so active for me. It's like these two protectors can be set off around almost any problem. And I do love this this thing from AA that's like you're a worker among workers. Like just sort of seeing yourself as seeing myself as one of many feels really good. I can't, it's like he's 18. How many kids and how many 18-year-olds in the history of the world have been like, you know what I got to do at 18? Join the army. Like in ancient Greece and wherever, you know, and like just thinking he's one of the people like that, and all their mothers worried. And it's, that makes me feel like things are right sized or something. So, yeah. But so, yes, when a problem comes up, just thinking like there's some simple, plain person at the center of this. We're not in like an epic battle. I don't have to let go of something or drive something really hard forward. I can just be, you know. I don't know why the being one of many or worker among workers really feels like self energy to me, but yeah, I guess it's because I don't like the idea that self is just like another enlightenment or something, or another like thing that lifts you up above everything so you see from the sky. It seems so just small and real, and like we all have it, you know. I don't know if that makes any sense.
If it's compassion, though, if it's love, then that does have a greatness about it that's kind of has a superior quality or ability to work with
it's true.
the world compared to, you know, our parts that lead us. So,
but it's true, but also some of the parts of mine that sort of get in my way the most are very grandiose. So there's something of thinking, I guess, just like there's humility in self too.
Yeah, well, it doesn't have the agenda, I think.
Yeah.
Is one way to put it.
Yeah.
It's not so attached to the outcome as much as showing up.
Right. It's not like I can make magic things happen because Jesus is on my side or something. It feels more like, something very simple. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm saying about that because it's so hard to describe the texture of self. But you've brought some back to me right now, which is really nice. Because I was at the beginning feeling like in the sort of distant from my emotions.
Good. I'm glad. Thanks for sharing it with me.
Well, thanks again for this. Do you think you'll keep going?
I intend to. I'm sure I'll need some time off to settle, but.
And have you taken a job or?
No.
Or do you intend to?
No.
I love it.
Yeah. It's actually kind of a concern of mine is how much of this is so easy feeling. And things just keep. I mean, I've had a lot of headaches and stuff I got to deal with, but in the big picture, it's like, this is pretty simple. I'm just going to go there.
Yeah. I mean,
it's a lot simple. It's really simple because everything is so much cheaper there that it's like, oh no, I'm saving money being there.
That's astounding.
Yeah.
It's right. And you're not worrying about it's like there's all the worry over here and then there's Vietnam over there.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting though. So interesting that you're like, why isn't this more difficult? Because it's very momentous.
Yeah. Yes.
There's a show on right now about the Vietnam War called The Sympathizer. but it's apparently, I don't know if you maybe know if this is true, but the Vietnamese call it the American War. And it's really good. It's really interesting and actually very funny and strange if you feel like looking at it.
Check it out.
Like by this Vietnamese author. Interesting guy. All right.
Okay.
It's so good to talk
Thanks
to you.
for the chat.
Thank you. Thank you. All right.
Have a good night. Bye. I don't know. Parts up for me. Well, in the first half of the call, the parts up for me are we failing on our commitment to get back to this exile? We scheduled a call right after our last one, and then that call didn't happen, and maybe there was even a second one that got scheduled and didn't happen. So it's been too long. But she remembered all the stuff. But yeah, I was concerned. Parts of me were concerned that we wouldn't get back there. Second half of call. About the sun and the army and how to talk. Yeah. It's not so easy to like coach around. How do I talk to someone from a place of compassion? Well, do IFS. So you can access self energy, recognize when you're blended. And I can list, like, and here's what that might look like, and here's how that might work out. But
do you want to help bring more self-energy to the world? If you'd like to participate in calls or help out with this project in any way, I'd love to hear your ideas. Join the Discord server or contact me at james@liveifs.com. A huge thanks to our audio engineer, Yvonne, for your care and diligence in editing the calls. To every caller for your courage in sharing some of your parts. And to anyone out there getting to know their internal system, keep going. Who knows, that might be the most selfless, helpful thing you can do for others, and you're the only one who can do it. If you'd like to see us reach the largest audience, we must please the almighty suggestion algorithms at iTunes and YouTube. And they don't care about the power of IFS. They're looking for likes and shares and comments, and the sooner the better. Follow the links in the show notes right here in your podcast player to make your wishes known. And now, a minute of meditation. Or if you prefer, pull over. You can do it in 60 seconds. Just click one of those links. They're right there, and give us a like or a 5-star rating. It would really help. If you think this project is helping people, you're helping people by sharing it. Thank you.